All right, good morning. Welcome in. The Out of Bounds Show is brought to you by your next John Deere tractor at Ag Up Equipment, Mississippi Ag, 16 locations, agup.com. Manage your land, your farm, your hunting camp with the John Deere tractor from Ag Up Equipment, agup.com. Want to welcome you in. Our guests join us on the Bell's Two-Hearted Ale guest line. This is 105.9 The Zone ESPN. And big news breaking yesterday, Urban Meyer gone, out. Didn't even complete a season for the Jacksonville Jaguars. The three-time national championship coach at Florida and Ohio State. It was a train wreck from the jump, starting with the hire of the strength and conditioning program, and then one thing after another. So we bring in senior NFL analyst Steve Palazzolo, Pro Football Focus, PFF.com. Steve, what was your reaction and the PFF reaction when you heard the news on Urban Meyer?
I mean, I think it just had to happen at this point. It's unbelievable how many bad things happened. I mean, it's really incredible how many things just stacked up that were bad, you know, and it's like, what were the top 5 worst things of the Urban Meyer era? I mean, it's like a legitimate discussion. And, you know, just recently kicking a player and, you know, the way he doesn't seem like the most personable guy, and it clearly wasn't working in Jacksonville. And the team's been horrible. And I think when you're Shad Khan and you're the owner, you have to look at this and say, man, our hope is in Trevor Lawrence, right? He's the guy that's supposed to turn this franchise around. He looks terrible. You know, you blame the kid a little bit, but like, man, we got to figure out a better environment for him to develop. So it had to happen, and it just had to happen because of all these ridiculous things that just kept stacking up.
You don't expect him to get another opportunity at that level, do you?
No, I absolutely don't. I mean, that would be negligence if you were an NFL owner. There's just so much evidence, and I saw somebody else tweet this out too. Like if Urban was out there and they had like an innovative offense, or if they were doing something well that he had brought from the college game or whatever it was, you could kind of justify it, right? Well, the X's and O's are good, but the off field is an issue. Like, there was nothing that was good. The X's and O's weren't even good, right? And that was never really Urban Meyer's strength anyway. It was supposed to be the stuff that he struggled at, which is leadership and coaching coaches and getting, rallying the troops to win. He's won a lot of football games, as he reminded all of his assistant coach. He's won a lot through the years, but he wasn't good at the thing that they hired him to do, so I can't imagine another NFL team gives him a shot.
All right. Las Vegas Raiders. I know we don't usually go into this. We're going to get into Dak here in a second, but, you know, I don't think Dabo's a fit for the NFL either. But, you know, there's all kinds of rumors there. Well, all right, how about this? Bigger picture. Since you guys live and breathe the NFL, and I know you do the draft and so on, but for the most part, do y'all believe that college coaches can make the jump and should make the jump? Or do you kind of believe in staying within the NFL fraternity when hiring? How about that?
I think it's always individualized, right? I mean, obviously a college coach can. I thought Chip Kelly had a good year and a half or so. And I think what kind of hurt him was more player personnel control rather than coaching. And because, you know, he took the league by storm, at least that first year offensively. So I think it can happen. But like if you're gonna hire a Dabo or an Urban Meyer, the thing that college coaches do differently, of course, is recruiting. And those guys are great because for whatever reason, they get the best players in their building, however that works, whether it's coaching their coaches, whether it's them, whatever it is, they get the best players in their building. And then, oh, by the way, they do a pretty good job of developing them, which means they probably have the best coaches around them, and they do a good job of finding coaches who develop players. The NFL is just a completely different animal because the skill sets that make you good in college don't translate to the NFL. Now they can, right? You could find a guy that has both. It's just a different world. So I would never say never, but you have to find a guy that has the NFL skills to succeed, not the things that made him succeed, you know, when it comes to the college game.
I like where you're going there. Steve Palazzolo.
You asked something else. What else did you ask? I'm sorry.
Well, I was talking about Dabo and the Las
Dabo.
Vegas Raiders. You know, I don't know. His comments on paying players and stuff, uh, and then, knowing what the way the NFL's, constructed, I'm not sure that would work, but who knows? Or maybe, you know, maybe Jacksonville tries to pair Dabo and Trevor. Again, owners do weird things. All right, let's go to Dak Prescott. He's in a slump. He played really, really bad last weekend. Things don't look right. You tell me, they can't run the football, and he's not playing well, and it doesn't look like he's getting the ball out quick enough, and he's maybe overthinking it. What do y'all see when y'all go through the film, Steve, on Dak?
Yeah, you called it a slump, and I really just think that's what it is. I mean, players go through slumps, and I think Dak's going through a seeing the field slump. And it's interesting because he made a comment before last week's game saying that he was going through his progressions too quickly, which it usually goes the other way, right? You're too slow to see the field, and you're late on stuff. Dak was trying to say, hey, I think I'm going through too quickly, meaning he's not letting things open up on the front side or where he's supposed to be looking. He's not letting guys get open and develop. And then I don't know if that's manifested itself the other way where he's holding on to it a little bit too long. And I think it's like kind of a seeing the field slump. I'd say throw for throw, he's still throwing the ball pretty well, accuracy-wise and all that stuff. Now, he had a few that got away. Like that first interception absolutely sailed on him, gets picked up. I think it was Landon Collins, picks it off. But the seeing the field part of it, that's where, you throw a pick six in crunch time to let Washington back in the game. I mean, those are the things that are tough that you can't have. And Dak had one of those in the fourth quarter against the Saints on the Thursday night game as well, where he just, misread the field in the middle of the field and put the ball in harm's way. So it's really those turnover-worthy plays, as we call them, but those really high-leverage bad plays that Dak has to cut out. So it's not a complete disaster, but yeah, if you have 3 or 4 of those plays per game, that's bad. That's well above where you should be. So I think that's where he's at. I don't think mechanically or accuracy-wise, it's anything's completely off kilter, but I think it's just a little bit of a slump. It's on seeing the field right now for Dak.
But all right, so you look at it and say he can break out of this thing, that he and Kellen Moore can figure this. There is a good possibility that they can figure this thing out.
Yeah, I mean, we had someone else at PFF do a whole thread on the good things that Dak did in that game. Stepping up in the pocket, and he's always had that. A little bit of pocket movement and pocket presence and stepping into throws and all that stuff. I just think he's just not doing it as often. So yeah, I think Dak can break out of it. I think they'll be okay overall. They've hit a little bit of a lull here offensively, and then thankfully you've got a defense that can make some plays and do a much better job than they did in previous years. If you're a Cowboy fan, you should be excited that you've got other ways to win besides just relying on Dak, as was the case last year before he got hurt. And then, it just kind of gives him some time to get back on track, which I think he will.
Okay. Steve Palazzolo on the Bell's Two-Hearted Ale guest line talking NFL football on the defensive side with Micah Parsons, DeMarcus Lawrence, Randy Gregory. Who's the new dude? Gabriel Blake?
Neville Gallimore.
Okay, that guy too. Tell me, that unit as a whole, Steve, if they can stay healthy, what kind of impact can they have for the Cowboys going down the stretch?
By the way, Gallimore is fun. When I was scouting him coming out of Oklahoma, he was just so explosive, and he flew to the places. He just didn't really know where he was going all the time. But he is a nice little addition there. But man, the 3 edge rushers now with Parsons, with DeMarcus Lawrence, with Randy Gregory, it gives the Dallas Cowboys so many options. When you draft Micah Parsons as a linebacker and then all of a sudden he's rushing the passer as well as anybody in the league, that is just incredible. That's unheard of. It doesn't happen. So it gives the Cowboys a ton of flexibility. Parsons could still play linebacker if needed, but now you're talking about a nickel and dime package, when it's third down or when it's a must-pass situation. 3 legitimate pass rushers that you could put out there and move around and keep offenses off balance. It could be absolutely huge for the Cowboys. We saw the interception, the great play that Randy Gregory made. He's actually having a career year really rushing the passer better, I'd say, these last 2 years than he has at any point in his career. DeMarcus Lawrence has always been good, especially over these last few years. And Parsons just incredible with his athleticism and ability to get to the quarterback. So tons of flexibility up front for the Cowboys, and it makes them really, really dangerous defensively.
Out of bounds, 105.9 The Zone, ESPN. Our friend Steve Palazzolo talking NFL with us. Blake?
Yeah, does Micah Parsons deserve to be in the Defensive Player of the Year conversation? Not Rookie of the Year, but Player of the Year. I saw a stat where he's tied for second or third in QB hurries, but he's 99th in QB rush attempts.
Love. It's incredible.
Yes, I would put him in the Defensive Player of the Year conversation. Again, I think he's got the highest pass rush grade that we've given out so far this year, behind Aaron Donald, of course. But yeah, he should be in that discussion. And look, it goes beyond just sack totals. I like that you use hurries and pressures at least, because that's a more telling stat of how well a guy has played. But Parsons, of course, has the sack totals as well. And I just want to reiterate, like, the move from linebacker to pass rusher just doesn't happen. Players don't do that. It's a completely different position. It's a completely different skill set. And Parsons has done it, which is, all the more impressive that he's been able to rush the passer as effectively as he has. So, yeah, I'd put him up in that conversation, especially with, how well Dallas' defense has played, or, how much better they've been this year.
Okay, Mac Jones with the New England Patriots, and they're 9-4, and the other rookies are 7-33. But New England is New England with Belichick. They spent $150 million or whatever it was in free agency, and so on. If Justin Fields was healthy, and if you took Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields and dropped him in with the New England Patriots, do you think that we would see the same kind of production and efficiency if they were in with that franchise with the greatest coach of all time, Steve?
I in year one, I honestly don't know, because I think the Patriots have tapped into what Mac Jones does really well, which is make quick decisions, get rid of the ball, and throw the ball accurately. So even though I liked Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields better as prospects last year, I don't know if they would hit the ground running the same way Mac Jones did in this system. Trevor Lawrence is still not seeing the field great. Fields could get rid of the ball quicker. I don't think that would have been solved just because Bill Belichick is the coach. Now, if you said, hey, give them some time in New England with Josh McDaniels, with Bill Belichick, what are we going to do in 3 years? Maybe I'm looking at Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields. But as far as immediate success, I think Mac Jones was, now especially looking back, Mac Jones was most set up for that. And he's, immediately taken to the system, throwing the ball accurately, throwing the ball well under pressure. And I think Mac Jones has just been a really good fit for New England right now. But, there's definitely a chance Lawrence and Fields and even a Zach Wilson still could have been much, better over time in that system.
We're visiting with Steve Palazzolo, PFF.com, Pro Football Focus. He joins us on the Bell's Two-Hearted Ale guest line. All right. The Saints continue to win, and we talked to you about this. Because, one, they're so good on defense, and Sean's such a great head coach, and they got to pull the Jets. So they're winning their way out of the Crash for Corral sweepstakes, or even Kenny Pickett at Pitt. This is going to be fascinating to see, Steve, what Sean can do. If he can get like a bona fide dude, or what people consider like Derek Carr, or if he goes maybe with a Gardner Minshew, who I still think is underrated and can play. How do you see it when you think of how good Sean is, if he can find another guy at QB, Steve?
Yeah, you guys keep bringing up Derek Carr. I think he would be a real interesting name, because I do think that Derek Carr caliber quarterback is probably all Sean Payton would need to get back on top. It's that second tier of quarterback in today's NFL. Is Derek Carr the 10th best, the 12th best quarterback in the league? He's probably in that range. So I think any team wants to get it. We call it like the Matt Ryan cutoff, kind of. Like if you have historically what Matt Ryan's been or better, you just have a much better chance of winning. I think Carr's probably right. He might be that cutoff, to be honest. He's probably right there. If the Saints could get that or better, I think they're in good shape. The other intriguing thing, and I repeat myself a million times on this, I do think that the difference between the best quarterback in the league and, say, the 20th or 30th is closer than it was a few years ago. So it does put, the onus on the play caller and the supporting cast and all that to raise the level of the quarterback. I think you're able to do that a little bit more in today's NFL, but that's where the Saints are also lacking, right? It's not like you're pulling a quarterback into this pristine situation with 3 great players to throw to and all that stuff. Like, they've got work to do. Even if Michael Thomas is back, they've got work to do to create a supporting cast. So I think that's what I'll be keeping an eye on. Is the Saints don't have an explosive group of playmakers, and they've got the question at the quarterback position. I'd be intrigued by going back to Jameis too, because if he's healthy, Jameis was doing a pretty good job. I wanted to see how that played out. I needed more data on Jameis, but overall, I think it was a good early return in that Jameis-Sean Payton marriage.
What team are you looking at that could emerge as a real threat going down the stretch? And is that team the LA Chargers?
I think the Chargers are definitely on the list. I think they're going to have a tough time winning tonight with some of their injuries and playing the Chiefs. But Justin Herbert's playing great football. He has been on the more conservative end this year, but when they let him throw the ball down the field, we saw he made the best throw of the season on Sunday, breaking out of pressure and throwing the ball about 60 yards in the air, right where he wanted it for a touchdown. Herbert could be special. So I think, the Chargers are dangerous. I think the Niners are kind of that hot team because they started slow and then they got all their playmakers back, and you have Kyle Shanahan, tapping into what George Kittle and Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel can do. So it's a great NFL season because of that. I think you could see a 6 seed like the 49ers or the Chargers do some damage in the playoffs because, again, I don't think the difference between the best and the next best teams is really that great this year. Anything can really happen.
Okay, so what direction do you think the Giants go? Are they going to move off Daniel Jones? I know he's hurt right now, and everybody loves some Mike Glennon, but where do you see that going, Steve?
Yeah, and this is where I'm torn on all this stuff, and I contradict myself. Like at one time I'll say, hey, maybe you don't need an elite quarterback because the difference between all the quarterbacks isn't great. On the other hand, I'll say the Giants are probably going to get a new regime, and not going to come in and say, yeah, Daniel Jones is the guy. I have to build around Daniel Jones. That's what I want. Because I don't think anybody goes out of their way to go get a Daniel Jones, knowing what we know about him. He's fine. Like, he's an okay starting quarterback, and if he did have a great situation, I always compared him to Nick Foles. Like, if Daniel Jones went on a Nick Folesian type of run for a half a season or a playoffs or whatever, I wouldn't be that surprised. But, man, you've got to do a lot of work to build around him. So I could – let's make a splash play for a Russell Wilson, get him into New York, or let's draft another quarterback. Like, I could see that happening in New York rather than saying, yeah, got to build around Daniel Jones. Like, I don't see him being the future there.
Okay, let's say you and I are drinking a beer this afternoon, and I ask, all right, now throw it out to you. You have to bet $100 on the bar. Russell Wilson leaves or stays in Seattle. Which way are you going, Steve?
Oh, I would throw the money on leaving, and that's without inside knowledge or anything like that. It's more just feels like it's coming to, between last offseason and this what's going to happen this offseason. It feels like it's just coming to a head there. And Seattle's in a tricky spot where they don't have draft capital to make that roster better. So they might just be spinning their wheels a year from now with Russ back there, an even worse roster. And, I don't know if it's going to work there. I'd say I'd throw the $100 on Russ being gone this offseason.
Wow, he's so good. I'd love to see him go somewhere that's fun and cool. Blake, go ahead.
Yes. All right, Steve, you
like
just
New Orleans?
Yes, that'd be off the chains. Sean and Russ, get out of the way. Good
Steve
grief.
knows his audience.
or he takes Tom Brady's place, but that's 5 years from now. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Like,
Sorry, really quick, the most important person there is the Saints accountant trying to make that work. But it's possible.
That's accurate. All right, Steve. So you just mentioned Joe Judge potentially. It does seem like that hook is set, and he's going to be gone out of New York. We already have seen John Gruden and Urban Meyer both let go for obviously differing reasons, but those two jobs are now open. Is there anyone else who, and I'm not asking you to put the death knell on anyone, but is there any other jobs that you think potentially might open up in the next few weeks? And, because that's obviously always fun to talk about kind of the changeover every year in the NFL.
Yeah, I do wonder if there's going to be like a full blow up in Seattle. And again, I just don't know if that's what they would want to do or roll it back. Pete Carroll's getting older too. I just don't know if that would be something that they'd be potentially looking into, completely blowing it up there with whether it's with Russ or with Pete Carroll. I don't know where else. I mean, a lot of the bad teams. I mean, the Bears, of course, are on the watch list with Matt Nagy. A lot of the other bad teams, though, have first and second year coaches. So not that will keep coaches from being turnover. But I don't know what the Texans might do. It didn't feel David Culley didn't feel like the most inspiring coaching selection, and I had a feeling he could be a one and done type of guy. And I just don't know how much it was Nick Caserio and who was in the mix there for making that move. So I just keep an eye on the Texans, I'd say, as well.
Real quick, you mentioned that Pete Carroll could be on the move. If Carroll's done in Seattle, does he take another job somewhere? Is he on the market? That's a
great question.
Yeah, I don't know. He's an interesting coach because I think he's a motivator. I don't know if he's always up with the times as far as, fourth down decisions and some of his other stuff. I would be less intrigued right now because you kind of see him get worse as the roster got worse. But yeah, I mean, if you're Shad Khan, you want a guy that's at least going to like change the culture and do the opposite of what Urban Meyer did. Pete Carroll would be intriguing to at least like get the building on track.
Yeah, and, but he would kill Trevor Lawrence's career. That's the problem.
Yeah, I mean, Pete Carroll's age would work against him there, but he's the guy that would just kind of get the culture on track, and there might be a team intrigued with something like that.
All right. I mean, I know Steve Palazzolo and PFF.com loved last year when Pete Carroll, after the season, said, we just have to run the ball more. Good hell.
That's the answer.
Goodness gracious. Have a good weekend, dude. We appreciate you.
All right. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Steve Palazzolo on the Bell's Two-Hearted Ale guest line. Try a Bell's Two-Hearted Ale this afternoon. Sal and Nuki's in Madison has it on draft. It is the #1 American IPA in the country. Bell's Two-Hearted Ale. We're live in the Bank Plus studio. Out of bounds. 105.9 The Zone, ESPN. Straight ahead, Lane Kiffin Audio talking name, image, and likeness. And he's motivating his alumni base.